Now when it comes to Drake, well now if you are ready to see how jewelry hunting Karen is begging for his hip hop card back by buying Tupac jewelry and has never looked worse for it, and at the same time, well, some weirder news than ever came out about Karen's not just more but way more than minor issues now, be sure to leave that like and subscribe. And now really, as our Drizzy is showing that when we just see half of what he did and what's coming out about him right now, he won't just never be allowed to ever step foot in the rap game again, but he will never be allowed to watch Stranger Things as well? Make sure to leave that like, and we just gotta get into this, because right now, well really, Drake is showing with each new thing and move that he is making, that the guy must have a calendar at this point that is guiding him to crash out to new lows and just leave us more and more baffled each day, because really, with what Diddy Drizzy just did after Kendrick Lamar popped back in LA to perform with the Clips and everybody was talking about how rap has never been more back and Drake has never been more sent back to the cosmics, well, it is really just showing us so much about Drake, which first off, as I have called out, his response to all of this is a prime example of his attention-chasing and clout-seeking thing that he does when bad news comes out about him, or when something good happens for a rival of his, which is just as immediately as possible to start what I am calling the Karen cycle or Aubrey loop, which is where Drake tries to take back the headlines or send some sort of a weird sneak diss to his opponent's way. And well, speaking of doing exactly this, well, Cupcake Karen, and stick around for what I am going to say later in this video, because that name of Cupcake has really never held more weight to it, has seemingly spun his wheel of losing, and now to take over the headlines seemingly and diss people to try and look more hip-hop in his eyes. Well, this time Drake is cosplaying as Indiana Aubrey or Cupcake Jones, but he isn't finding treasure and putting it in museums to honor the history he tried to convince us he studies for a living, but he's buying hip-hop jewelry from the possession of strange vultures, and well, according to Diddy Driz, it does not belong in a museum, and it belongs in his law-loving ghostwriting hands, as well disappointing us all once again. Drake has come out and tried to hype up his Copenhagen shows for the OVO Karaoke Snooze Fest tour, or whatever it's called, which in of itself, while that might be a small sneak diss towards Kendrick Lamar already, as it alludes to track 3 off Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, Worldwide Steppers, where Kendrick recalls a life-changing experience that went down during his Good Kid Mad City tour in the same city. Well, regardless of Drake being obsessed with Kendrick, where he is really just making his own language to diss him without ever saying it directly, where things really take off and get big here, and where we see the play that Drake is once again running from the worst playbook that we have ever seen drawn up, well, it all comes down to Karen flaunting the fact that he has possession of Tupac's pennant from when he was on one of the most iconic hip-hop labels of all time in D-Row, which, quick side note, after bouncing around ownership and then being in the hands of Hasbro and finally being owned by Snoop Dogg now? Well, really, after all of the shading of Tupac that we have seen from Drake, and even Kendrick addressing both that and Snoop's passiveness in this entire situation on Whacked Out Murals, of course, I do have to question Snoop's leadership at this point. If Drake is really now dissing both the rapper who he made classics alongside with and who he was seemingly so close to according to his own word, and on top of that now, the very label that he does own, and it will be time for that conversation if Snoop does not speak on this, but for now, for Karen, with this move, however you want to spin it, well, Drake is really just trying to look like the bad, scary guy on the block who owns the jewelry and items that may be the most feared and competitive rapper ever owned, and well, with this, I got news for Drake, but no matter what he tries to do and how he tries to hold this thing up and get any sort of hip-hop clout that he can, well listen, already for him, beyond the ghostwriters, being Jimmy Brooks from Degrassi, this being you and making clown songs like you have for so long, because again, no respected rapper or somebody that Tupac would ever want to be near with would say things like this, and this. Really, at the end of the day for Aubrey, no matter what you ever did in the rap world that was even slightly liked, everybody who respects and cares about this culture can see that you are Karen, and no matter what you do and what you try to hold up, you are never going to look tough or be cool for it, especially when you are taking away hip-hop artifacts from the culture, just like the vultures you got them from, instead of putting them in a museum or in any sort of exhibit where the legend's legacy can be preserved and learned about by fans and people to really just get the greater impact of hip-hop on a greater scale. And really, at the end of the day, with Drake just getting these items like he is getting VC to make his My Player look cooler at the park, I mean, it does not matter how great the person's items you are flaunting are, because she did the rap equivalent of pay to win. And really, no matter how you pull up to the park and no matter how cool your gear is, you're still not a good hooper. And what I mean by that is that really no item in hip-hop history is gonna make Drake look good, and he is forever going to be known as the guy who is all gear but no game. And speaking of no game, well, for Aubrey, while he has no game in the hip-hop world, what he really needs to stop doing is playing games with his future and reputation, because after Drake's label did come out and say to him that they are going to expose his creepy past in the lawsuit that he started, and they are going to use that against him. Well, there is another rumor for Drake that is getting bigger and bubbling that his stans are trying to ignore but just can't now, and what I am talking about is coming from a viral clip where a girl is telling none other than Fousey that she went to one of Drake's house parties with her friend's older sister. And this is where it gets weird, when she was in grade 7, and when you hear the story of how Drake's team just let these people in because they were in their friend's dad's Rolls Royce, and then she says that they were partying in a pool with Tyga in a hot tub, and at this, Aubrey was just running around crazy here. And making the story even wilder, she was saying how she baked Drake cupcakes personally one time, which I can't. I told you guys that would have paid off. Some jokes just write themselves. Well, really, overall with this, we are just finding out more and more why Drake's favorite character in Stranger Things is the person known as 11, which are just worse and worse as they keep going on. But now really, while there is a lot to take away from this, what I will say over everything is that this story is so specific that it makes it hard not to believe one. And in addition to this, with the behaviors and things we know about people in OVO like Baka for example, and this is again when your reputation comes into play. Well, I got bad news for the Drake stan. This story fits with the weird case stuff that we have heard and really just the behavior we have seen on display from Drake and his entire crew in general for a long time at that. And to be honest, with everything that is on the line right now, and with the label moving against Drake and trying to understand him and his team's trouble and weird history in these awful situations, which once again are way more than a minor issue now. Well, again, when you hear a story like this and just see so many things add up, this is all very telling and pivotal of where we are headed, and seems to be another slip in the cracks of what is definitely something that is really coming to haunt Karen, because in actuality, when you realize the consequences of having an entire team who works for Drake, which as we hear from this story, is so careless and negligent on who they are letting into his parties and who people and weirdos around them are rolling in with and getting in trouble together around, well, this is just weird and genuinely disturbing, and showing that these guys don't have any morals and that they're trying to get away with some very strange things, and I'm not even saying that as a joke. And really, when you just think about how this girl was saying that she baked cupcakes for Drake, I'm still just sitting here and asking why? Why, as a person of Drake's stature, are you even getting into situations where you are walking around and getting the chance to be caught up for a cupcake? And now really, has Drake has thrown out the rap game board because he kept losing on that and made this a game about character and optics? Ultimately, when you compare Drake to Kendrick Lamar and even the levels of backlash and scrutiny that they face, it's ironic, because while Kendrick haters have to make up the weirdest and wildest theories to try and discredit Kendrick because of how low profile he is, and in general, he really does not get himself into the types of trouble that can ruin your entire reputation, well, for Drake, no matter what you want to say, he seems to love putting himself in these situations where trouble just comes so easily, and really in terms of just being the slightest bit smart about how you should move when you are at the level you're at, it seems like him and his entire team are so delusional that they really just thought they were better than ever getting caught, and did not take the proper steps to just act like a normal group of people in the entertainment industry. But again, with the way Drake has talked and with the way he has defended himself, are we even surprised by this? And so putting all of this into perspective, while all of this news is bad, what is very clear right now is that nobody is surprised by the lows that Cupcake is reaching and what is coming to light. And really, from the story about females and cupcakes and hot tubs, and then to trying to pay to win in rap with Tupac's chain and not getting any sort of thing accomplished for it, well, really, what we are seeing right now is that the end for Aubrey's career is really going to come eventually, as it does seem like more than ever right now, on both ends of the scale, from the weird personal stuff to the weird rap stuff. We are just at a point where now, while Drake has kept the clock going with these games and he's trying to get somewhere with it, well, due to how bad his response has been and the loser's lap has been continuing, he's only going to continue to go downhill from here more, and at the end of the day, just disgrace his entire name and legacy to a place where nobody will remember remember Drake other than just for the very worst things in both rap and hip-hop culture, and for what a high-profile name could represent in general. And so now, with all of this said, let me know, what do you think about R. Drizzy's recent issues with both disrespecting Tupac once again, and what that means for hip-hop as a whole and Drake's connection with it at this point? And what do you think about this weird cupcake story, which I don't even know how to interpret yet? Well, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about all this, and if you made it to this point in the video, first off, thank you, it really means a lot, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe, it helps me out a ton. And now, if you want to see how right before this, well, the moment that made Drake this mad in the first place was Kendrick Lamar, Pusha T, and Malice being on stage together, sharing some all-time great raps and showing that they are not fazed by Drake's antics whatsoever. Check out the suggested video.